Palace guard James Mitchell was doing his routine that night when he noticed something under Kate Middleton's bedroom. A bright white envelope, as if someone had deliberately hidden it there. When James picked up that envelope, he felt his hands trembling. When he read the letter inside, he couldn't hold back his tears. The lines Kate had written revealed a painful truth about her royal life that no one had ever known. Hello, dear Princess Kate Stories family. Before we dive into this shocking story, would you mind sharing which city you're joining us from in the comments? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so these special stories can reach even more people. James Mitchell was an experienced security guard who had worked at Buckingham Palace since 2009. In his early 40s, tall, broad-shouldered, and always scanning his surroundings with careful eyes. For 15 years, he had ensured the safety of the royal family, witnessing countless secret documents, valuable items, and private moments. But none of them would affect him as much as what he would experience that night. James's duty was simple, but critical. Every night, conducting security checks in the private areas of royal family members, windows, doors, secret passages, making sure everything was in place. These routine checks were usually carried out quietly and quickly after the royal family members had gone to sleep. Kate Middleton's bedroom was always one of the most carefully monitored places. As the future queen, her security was an absolute priority. James had checked this room hundreds of times, memorizing every corner, every detail. That November night, everything seemed no different from normal. Kate and William had gone to bed early. The palace had fallen into silence. James was doing his final checks in the rooms under the dim light of his flashlight. When he entered Kate's room, everything was in its place, until he got to the bed. James noticed a small bump at the edge of the carpet next to the bed, a detail that could normally be overlooked, but 15 years of experience had taught him to pay attention to even the smallest abnormalities. When he bent down to look, he saw something white shining from under the bed. Feeling his heart racing, he bent down and pulled out the object. In his hand was a thick, cream-colored envelope made of handmade paper. There was no writing on the envelope, but when he touched it, he could feel there was something inside. Thousands of thoughts raced through James's mind. Was this a threatening letter? Some kind of security risk? Or something innocently forgotten? As a guard, his duty was to immediately report any suspicious object to his superiors. But a voice inside told him he should first see what it was. With trembling hands, he opened the envelope. 2 pages of cream-colored paper came out, with Kate's familiar handwriting on them. Written in blue ink, the ink had smeared in some places, as if tears had dripped onto the paper while writing. When James read the first lines, he felt his heart stop. If someone is reading this letter, it means I've reached the point where I can't bear it anymore. My hands are shaking as I write these lines because I'm about to tell truths that no one should ever know. James's eyes were locked on the paper. This was Kate's handwriting. There was no doubt about it. But the content was so personal, so full of pain, that every line he read shook him more. The letter continued. Everyone sees me as strong, knows me as the perfect princess. But the truth is, I'm losing myself a little more each day. I love William. I love my children. But sometimes I feel like this life is suffocating me. Until that moment, James had only seen Kate at official events, in her smiling, elegant, controlled state. These lines revealed a Kate he had never known, fragile, human Kate. The letter continued with even more painful details. I can't sleep at night. I constantly live in fear that I'll do something wrong, that I'll embarrass the family. The media watches me. The public expects me to be perfect, but I'm just a normal woman. Sometimes when I look at myself in the mirror, I can't see the real Kate. I only see the mask that the royal family expects me to wear. James's eyes had filled with tears. For 15 years, he had protected Kate, risked his life for her safety, but he had never realized there was so much pain in her inner world. The letter continued. William is a wonderful husband, but He grew up in this world. This pressure seems normal to him. He tells me you'll get used to it, but what if I can't? What if my children find me fake when they grow up? What if I get so caught up in protocol that I can't be a real mother? Reading these lines, James could see Kate's anxieties about motherhood. Kate, who everyone thought was a perfect mother, was actually constantly questioning herself, wondering if she was enough. The most difficult part of the letter was on the second page. Sometimes I write things to this letter that I can't tell William. If I tell him how much I'm struggling, I'll cause him to worry too. He's already carrying so much burden. I try to be his strength, but who will be mine? Reading these lines, James understood how alone Kate felt. A woman loved by millions of people with countless supporters felt abandoned. Last night I cried while reading Charlotte a fairy tale. Looking at her innocent face, I thought about what kind of world I would leave her. This pressure, this constant state of being under observation. Will my children experience this too? Am I condemning them to this fate? This part affected James the most. Kate wasn't just worried about herself. She was also afraid for her children's future. Toward the end of the letter, Kate's mood became even heavier. Today I talked to other mothers at Charlotte's school. They were talking about their children's normal mischief, ordinary worries. It seemed so normal to me. When was the last time I acted like a normal mother with my own children, without protocol rules, without photographers? James could see that Kate wanted to be a normal mother, but even that seemed like a luxury to her. I asked William the other day, "Can I take a little break?" He thought I was joking. "The royal family doesn't take breaks, Kate," he said, laughing. But I wasn't joking. I really wanted to take a break, to just be Kate for a while. These lines were breaking James's heart. Kate felt misunderstood, even by William, adding loneliness to her loneliness. At the end of the letter, Kate wrote about her search for hope. I'm writing this letter because maybe someday someone will understand. Maybe someone will see that living in a golden cage isn't always wonderful. When my children grow up, if they find this letter, let them know that I loved them to the end. Even in my weakest moments, I thought of them. Reading this part, James thought about what a good mother Kate was. Even in her most difficult moments, she was thinking of her children, trying to stay strong for them. If William reads this letter, let him know that I didn't tell him not because I didn't love him, but because I loved him too much. I didn't want to upset him, but I can't carry this burden alone anymore. Kate was even using her love for William to blame herself. She was hiding it because she loved him, but she was also blaming herself for hiding it. The last paragraph of the letter completely destroyed James. The Kate writing this letter is the Kate without makeup. Kate without royal rules. Just Kate who is a mother, a wife, a woman. If this woman ever gets lost, at least someone will know the real story. I'm just an ordinary person trying to be perfect, and sometimes that's very tiring. The letter ended with the signature, "With love, the real Kate." When James finished the letter, he realized that tears were streaming down his cheeks. In his 15-year guard career, nothing had affected him this much. Kate's pain, loneliness, despair. It was all written in these lines. James sat with that letter for hours. He didn't know what he should do. His duty was to immediately report any security risk. But this letter wasn't a risk. It was a human being's cry for help. So what should he do? Should he put the letter back in its place and forget about it? Or should he report it to someone? Would he betray Kate's trust? James thought that there was a reason Kate had hidden that letter there. Maybe she really wanted someone to find it, read it. Maybe she was asking for help, but didn't know how to ask. James couldn't sleep that night. Every line Kate had written kept spinning in his mind. The next day when he saw Kate in the corridors, he could now see the pain behind her smiling face. As the days passed, James's perspective on Kate completely changed. He no longer saw her just as a royal family member who needed protection. He saw her as a human being who needed to be understood and supported. He began to observe Kate's behavior more carefully. She really did have tired moments. Her smile sometimes seemed forced. Even in moments with her children, she sometimes drifted away. When Kate asked him one day, "How are you, James?" James noticed the sincerity in her eyes. Kate wasn't just asking out of politeness. She was genuinely curious. Maybe she too felt the need to understand how others treated her. A week later, James made a difficult decision. He put the letter back where Kate had found it, but left a small note next to it. "Your Highness, I inadvertently saw your private letter during a security check. I am extremely uncomfortable with this situation and I apologize. However, the content was so moving that my conscience couldn't bear to remain silent. I want you to know that you are not alone, and what you are experiencing doesn't show weakness. On the contrary, it shows great strength. Everyone has difficult times, even royal family members. I apologize again for sharing this personal situation and offer my respects. Guard James Mitchell." James felt his heart beating rapidly as he left this note. Maybe he was going too far, maybe he was risking his job, but the pain Kate had written in that letter required him to do something too. The next day, Kate found the note. When James saw her in the corridor, there was surprise but also gratitude in Kate's eyes. Kate came toward him and quietly said, "Thank you, James." These simple words deeply affected James. There was lightness in Kate's voice, as if a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. She now felt that someone else knew her secret, that she was understood without being judged. From that day on, a special bond formed between Kate and James. Even if they never talked, they understood each other. James began to be even more careful about protecting Kate. As the weeks passed, James began to observe positive changes in Kate. Her smiles seemed more natural. She acted more relaxed with her children, as if knowing that someone understood her had given her strength. One day Kate approached James and said, "James, thank you for that night. Sometimes it's enough for a person to just know they're understood." James replied, "Your Highness, everyone has difficult moments. It took courage for you to share this." James never shared the content of that letter with anyone. Protecting Kate's trust was the most important duty for him. But that letter had shown him how strong Kate was. Being able to accept one's weaknesses was a sign of real strength. James's perspective on Kate had changed forever. He now saw her not just as the future queen, but as a struggling woman. After this experience, James learned that people's apparent state doesn't always reflect reality. He understood that even the strongest-looking people can have fragile moments, and that this is normal. Kate's letter showed him that showing empathy is sometimes the greatest gift. Understanding someone can help them heal. Even as years passed, James never forgot that night and Kate's courage. The honesty Kate showed in that letter had taught him how valuable humanity was. James is now retired, but his respect for Kate has never diminished. "That letter showed me," says James, "that regardless of royal title, everyone is just human, and sometimes the strongest people are the most fragile ones." Kate's letter wasn't just a cry for help, it was also a message of hope. Even when faced with difficulties, she had continued to write, continued to share. This was proof of how strong she was. In James's words, that letter was written in Kate's weakest moment, but anyone who read it would understand how strong she was. What does this story mean to you? Was what James did right? We're waiting for your comments. If you want to hear more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. See you in the next video.